First story. A man harassed me and I got his retirement benefits taken away. So this took place over 3 years, give or take some. I, 29 female, left the military and picked up a contracting job in the same field. While I was starting my new career, I was also leaving an unhappy and abusive marriage. My ex-husband, 29 male, was a store manager at a GameStop, and when asked if he gave military discounts, he would give military discounts and ask if people knew me on base and what I was up to. A man we will call Bubble Bass, 35 male, actually worked for me, and the two of them bonded over their mutual hate for women. Bubble Bass would refer to me as a witch and slut at work, and even went so far as to attempt to get my home address to give to my ex. I reported the incidents through proper channels and had to get a new apartment, but unsurprisingly, the military did nothing to Bubble Bass. So I decided to keep my eyes on him and wait until he made another misstep. Over the next 3 years working with him was horrible. He would undermine my authority in the section by telling junior people I was stupid, being intentionally insubordinate, and publicly talking about how he was exploiting the foster care system to make money off the children he was supposed to be taking care of. About a year ago now, another girl, 20 female, came to me and told me that Bubble Bass was approaching her in a way that made her uncomfortable. When I pulled up their chat logs, Bubble Bass was begging her for inappropriate stuff, even though he was married, and she was repeatedly telling him she was not interested. I convinced the girl to report Bubble Bass despite her hesitation. During the investigation, while I was interviewed, I spared no detail about what exactly Bubble Bass was doing, and saying to include fraud, waste, and abuse of government assets and systems. I kept a literal list with dates and times. As things turned out, there were about 4 other women at our base Bubble Bass was sexually harassing. Bubble Bass went to non-judicial punishment this week, and he lost everything. He has 18 years in the military and was 2 years away from a full retirement. He lost his clearance, he lost his foster children, and he lost his honorable discharge. He is literally starting life over in his 30s, with a discharge that shows he sexually harasses women with no benefits, and 18 years of training in a job field that is only relevant if he has a clearance. Next story. Put my kids in danger, pay the price. Literally. My dad just recounted the story to me and it fits here perfectly. Long ago and far away, when my sister and I were young kids, we lived in a townhouse. The couple in the house next to us, despite my parents' attempts to be nice, were decidedly not. First, my parents had been trying to take in a stray cat that had adopted our family. Unfortunately, they already had 2 cats, a newborn and a 2-year-old me. There were some safety hesitations, so they were waiting on vet tests and my sister to be a bit older to take this cat, hereafter named Buster. Our neighbors knew that Buster was for all intents and purposes our cat. He lived in our yard and used a small alley between our houses to wander the streets. A lot of cats in the neighborhood were outdoor cats. So one day these neighbors called animal control to get rid of Buster. He got trapped, but luckily when they came to take him away, my mom heard them crying and ran out to save him. After that, Buster lived indoors with us until he retired to the large cat tree in the sky. Now, though my parents were pretty sure it was malicious, it was hard to know for sure until the second event transpired. My sister, still only a few months old, and I were home one day and playing in the backyard when our neighbors had someone come spray a fairly potent fungicide around their yard. Luckily, my parents noticed and were able to keep us from inhaling terrible things. It turns out these neighbors had deliberately not told my parents that there would be toxic chemicals, or told the pissed person that there were young children right next door. So my father, not a violent or malicious man, decided to take the high road than the lawful road. Our neighbors went on vacation for a few weeks over the summer. Hardly anyone in the city had driveways, and even residential cars parked on the street had to be moved every 72 hours. My father simply helped the city enforce this regulation. Apparently, our lovely neighbors came home to several $300 tickets. My father would also rock my sister while she cried in my parents' closet, which was right next to our neighbor's bedroom wall. They moved pretty quickly after all of this, and our new neighbor was the loveliest woman who would let my sister and me pick flowers in her yard and watched after us sometime. Next story. Sorry lady, this is my flat, not a salon. So a little bit of backstory. We live in a 2-story building, and on the first floor there is a doctor and beauty salons. The second floor are all flats, and we live in the one at the very end of a corridor. On to the story. This happened 10 minutes ago, and I'm still baffled how someone could mistake my flat for a beauty salon. I'm currently on maternity leave with my second child, 6 months, so I'm home most of the time. I was breastfeeding her and heard footsteps but wasn't thinking much of it as my husband is also at home. But suddenly an elderly lady stood in our living room and just asked, "Beauty salon?" To say I was confused is an understatement. To get where she was, she passed my sleeping son in his stroller and a complete row of bookshelves as well as a few toys on the floor, so in my opinion there is no way that you can confuse our flat for anything else. But the lady looked confused herself, and after I explained that she needed to go a floor down, she apologized and made her way out of the flat. But she tried to open 2 other doors before finding the right one. By this time my 2 kids were crying, so I didn't go after her. But now I wonder if I should have, as she seemed pretty confused to me. This is the second time this happened, and I get that it's possible to press the wrong button in an elevator, but normally it isn't hard to differentiate between a beauty salon and a flat door. It is. For all the people that say I should lock the door, I normally do. But my son was sleeping in the stroller outside of the apartment, and so I had it open so I could hear him when he wakes up. That isn't that uncommon here, and it isn't unsafe as we live in a small village and there are not many people around. Edit 2. So to everyone who is shocked I left my kid outside of my apartment in his stroller, we normally do not do that. He just happened to fall asleep while my husband was grocery shopping, and if we would have moved him, he surely would have woken up. Our stroller is big, so it isn't easy to maneuver it in our flat without bumping into things and waking him up as well. It also was cooler outside of the flat, and I had the door open and checked on him frequently. Sure, kids can get kidnapped in all countries, but we are a village of 4,000 people with a tight-knit community, and I don't know of a single case of child kidnapping that happened here. The staircase and both exits also have surveillance cameras, and people know that as there are signs and they are visible. Next story. Karen, can't you see? Some background and setup. So I work at a mid-sized international airport. Not TSA for those that want to complain. Like at most airports, we have Uber and Lyft and rideshare services, with a designated pickup location that is directly below baggage claim. This has been the spot since before the pandemic, as it took out the confusion and hassle of dealing with Uber people. There are about 40 signs in total that indicate direct and point passengers to where they need to go for rideshare location in each of the baggage claim areas. Not only that, the app for them directs them where to go as well with instructions, and there are other signs throughout the airport. I was working along with a supervisor directing traffic outside. Even with signs everywhere, people often do not read or pay attention to their surroundings. We start directing the man to go inside down the escalator and to the pickup spot when she roars in. While her name is Debbie, we will know her as Karen for this story. Karen is the wife of the gentleman who asked us the location and was speaking with. Note he was very polite and kind to us during the whole encounter and is blessed with much calmness since being married to Karen.
The pickup spot is here, I told you. They will pick us up from here.
Karen yells out. I address Karen and point out, no, this is not that. Upper and left pickup downstairs. If they come up here, they get in trouble. Arguing with me as if I don't know what I'm talking about, she replies,
no, they pick up here. I know where the pickup is.
As it is a hot sweltering day of around 100 degrees, I'm already in a mood and this one wants to debate where things are. In my most condescending but polite and professional manner, no, they do not. There are signs to direct you downstairs where the pickup is located.
There are no signs saying this. I looked.
This is when the light bulb goes off. Laying the bait and trap, I ask, yes, there are. Would you like me to show you the signs?
Yes, I would,
she says with a big grin on her face, thinking I would not waste my time or be able to correct her, as she must be right since she's a Karen. Absolutely I will. Right this way. I say and begin walking to the door. I hold the door open and prepare myself to be the best tour guide of signage on the face of the planet. After coming in, I directly pointed out the sign right inside the door saying right here with Uber and Lyft logos and the words downstairs on a poster directly near the door we just entered. I then walk over to one of the 3 carousels and point out the 6 signs on and around the carousels.
I don't see them. What are you talking about?
Karen strikes back to discourage me from speaking. But miss, there, right there, the black Uber logo and the pink lift are very large and able to be seen clearly. I point them out as if displaying an item on the price is right. Before moving on to the large 4-foot wide 5-foot tall sign on the elevator that shows the same logos and in very large font, right here downstairs in bold text. I stand next to this one and point it out. She leans in as if she can barely see them.
Well, there is just too much noise going on in here,
she says as a grin turns to a grimace. I'm still unsure as to how noise affects eyesight and reading ability. But Karen, most of the signs in the whole baggage claim are pointing you to locations of interest, such as the pickup location of Uber and Lyft. I say with mock shock. I continued to point out sign after sign around baggage claim, before Karen stated,
there are none at eye level.
And this is where the best part of my whole week happened. As if Christmas came early and the spots leveled on me. She says this standing in front of a poster sign that is directly in the same height as Karen. I take the top of the sign and rock it back and forth, making it clank and shake. Karen, this is eye level. I say with the biggest smile on my face. You only need to look. Karen has been packed into a corner and I had her on the ropes.
Well, there were none before. I saw none on my way into baggage.
Like a wounded animal attacking with the last bit of energy before the end comes. I can show you the ones further in the airport as you walk here if you want. But this is where her husband, the kind old man, speaks up. Let's go, Karen. At which point I learned her true name. The old man had a smirk on his face as Karen slowly walked into the elevator with her husband and my supervisor. I was told later on by that same supervisor that as they exited the elevator, which also has signage inside for Uber, that as they exited, he continued to point out the signs that were downstairs all the way to the curb where they were able to get on their way.